Hey, once again here, wrestling fans, JC with Wax Poetic Pro Wrestling, and I do want to talk about the Vince McMahon situation as this stands right now. As you may or may not know, yesterday, uh, Janelle Grant, who was revealed to be one of the women who was receiving hush payments from Vince McMahon, had filed officially a lawsuit against Vince McMahon, citing specifically sex tracking allegations. But there is a 67-page court filing with all types of evidence, and including text messages from Vince McMahon to Janelle Grant that are, I mean, they're just beyond graphic. I mean, it's just, you read these things and it's just horrifying. And just the emotional, mental abuse that apparently that he had put her through. Guys, it's not as simple as just saying, "Oh well, she could have quit," or she could have just walked away. And why did she accept this treatment? I mean, the situation that this woman was in, she was coming off of her elderly parents passing away, and basically they didn't have a pot to piss in, and they were bankrupt and basically the house that was left to her was taken, and she really didn't have anything. So this girl, thinking that Vince McMahon was going to be the person that would give her a job and give her a future, turned out to be the person that was a predator to her and basically took her at her lowest point and used that against her and manipulated her, plain and simple. So everybody likes to say, "Oh well, she could have walked away, or she didn't have to do all that, and she did that consensually," or "Oh well, she was texting back and forth with him." And I read the text, and the texts that she was sending back to Vince were very like from the level of like, "Oh well, baby, I'm really sore, and if you could just be nice and just not be so Vince," and that was kind of the vibe I was getting. She was trying to be tactful because she understood that this man could ruin her. He told her on many occasions that he could ruin her. So basically, it was an intimidation factor. And it's only so much that she can take. Thankfully, for her sake in this situation, Linda was the one that basically ended this whole thing, because it was too hot, and if they were going to sell this company, there was too many sex allegations out there. And for all those people out there saying, this is fake, or like she's just extorting money from him, guys, he already agreed to make the payments. The end for the NDA. The NDA only exists if Vince is continuing to pay the payments that he agreed to keep her shut up. It doesn't matter right or wrong in this situation. Well, it does matter, but as far as Vince getting in trouble for all of this, he has only but himself to blame in this situation, because he, much like he did to people and promoters in his past in the 80s when he was taking over the wrestling business and destroying the territories, he he stiffed people money. You know, he owed Mike LaBelle money. He owed Stu Hart money that he never paid. You know, and I don't understand why he would think that now being a part of a multi-billion-dollar super company like TKO on this level, to think that he would be egotistical enough to the point that he actually thought that he could get away with not making those payments to this woman and something bad would not happen. It's unfathomable to me that he could be this stupid, frankly, stupid. Like I said, he's a disgusting human being for the texts and how he treated this woman. But at the same time, he had this all handled with this NDA. So all these people playing the world's smallest violin just for Vince, all the Vince stands out there. Guys, Vince said something really famous in the late 90s after the whole Montreal Screwjob thing. He said, Brett screwed Brett. Well, what goes around comes around, Vince. And guess what? As of today, or as of yesterday, Vince screwed Vince. You screwed you. Vince screwed Vince. No other way to put it at this point. As long as he would have played ball and he would have done everything he had agreed to do, today we would not even be talking about this. But he fucked up. He absolutely fucked up in more ways than one. If he didn't want this out there, if he didn't want to get removed from TKO and WWE in shame, then why in God's name would you do something like this? It's just unfathomable. All I can think is he's a narcissistic and egotistical to the point that he actually thought he was untouchable. Much like another person that we all know over in the political spectrum. It's really strange, because it's an old saying, absolute power corrupts absolutely. And that is exactly what happened to Vince McMahon. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. Okay? So, and, like I said, what goes around comes around. You can't go around treating people like their property, basically, or just like their meat. And eventually not think that that's going to come around to bite you in the ass. I don't care how much money you have. Eventually, you will be bit in the ass in these situations. And, the person I was just alluding to felt that today as well. So it seems like a lot of, egotistical piece of shit billionaires have been getting their comeuppance lately. But like I said, in this situation, Vince screwed Vince. Eventually, I just think this is the beginning. There's unnamed people within this suit that haven't even been named yet. Okay? The text messages are just damning, okay? They are in there as evidence too, guys. I've had people say, well, why do we know that the text messages are real? Really? They're in the lawsuit as submitted evidence. You think they're going to just submit text for evidence if they haven't verified that this is Vince McMahon's phone number? Really? On this level, okay? Some of the people online are just the level of ignorance that these people are, operating on. Or it's like they're coming off with these opinions, and they have low information. They didn't even read the document. They didn't really read even a summary of the document. They're just spewing off. And it's basically like 30%, or 3 out of every 10 people that are kind of operating on this level, which is consequently the same, about the percentage of people that support who with impunity, without impunity. It doesn't matter what he does wrong or right, and they back him all the way. It's like a cult, and it's just like that with a lot of these Vince people, a lot of these Vince stands out there. It's like, guys, and then you just try to tell them, hey, it really doesn't matter if it happened or it didn't happen. Actually, he'll have his day in court. She'll have her day in court. What matters from a business standpoint for WWE and TKO is that they distance themselves from him as soon as possible. And anybody else the name that comes up in this, including John Laurinaitis and Brock Lesnar, if that's I don't know if Brock has done enough to where, he'll just go away forever. Like I said, I don't think that's going to happen, but I believe Brock will be gone for quite a while for this to kind of like blow over a bit before he shows back up. But there's a lot of implication. There's still parties that haven't been named in this suit yet. And then that's, like I said, and she's only $3 million of the $19 million or whatever that's out there that he's paying out in hush money. You don't think somebody else is going to come forward? What about people within the company or people who used to be in the company who've been quiet all this time? Shit's going to just start coming out of the woodwork. And it would be best for WWE and TKO to cut ties with Vince McMahon right now. Now, we don't know how involved Triple H and Stephanie are in this. There is obviously rumblings that Triple H was one of the people that, never talked to Janelle Grant when they were doing the internal probe. That's highly suspect. I don't really want to, obviously we don't want to lose Triple H from WWE because, he's doing a pretty good job with the booking at this point. So, but make no mistake, even if he was gone tomorrow, somebody would step right in and take his job. There's people out there that can do his job. It's not completely inconceivable that, somebody else can step in and do the job if necessary. So I believe at this point no one is safe, but first and foremost, they need to cut ties with Vince. He needs to leave the company, or they need to figure something out where he's no longer involved in this company. Just from a pure optics standpoint, they need to cut ties in this situation and just for the future. And even above all that, the culture of wrestling, pro wrestling, it's a very good old boys locker room mentality, type industry, and it's always been that way. And I think it's about time that we get a lot of these types of people, these Vince McMahons and these John Laurinaitis types. They need to go away. They gotta leave. They gotta get out of wrestling. It's just not a good look for the business anymore, because this doesn't just affect WWE. This affects the entire pro wrestling industry, and how the general public perceives pro wrestling this is a huge black eye for that. Okay, and everything that they can do to distance themselves from Vince McMahon and anybody within his inner circle that continues to perpetuate this type of behavior and treatment of women, and frankly just treating of people. Okay, I've read a lot of interviews, shoot interviews, articles. I've done deep dives, as most wrestling fans and people who are into it on this level, which I'm sure a lot of you watching this right now are into it on that, that deep level. I'm intimately familiar with the type of person that Vince McMahon is. Hours upon hours upon hours upon hours upon hours upon hours of stories about Vince and things that he does, the way that he thinks. None of this is shocking, and it is, like I said, it's a black eye on the business, and it needs to be left in the past. this toxic masculinity, I guess you would maybe call it, type attitude. It's just not good, and the world is changing, and it's just bad optics, guys. It's just absolutely just bad optics. And like I said, this stuff wouldn't be coming out if he didn't stop paying on the payments for the NDA. So you bet your bottom dollar. I'm betting that most of this is true. And I'm also betting, even if just a fraction of it was true, it's damning enough. Just the text messages alone, damning enough to relegate Vince to, almost Harvey Weinstein status at this point. I mean, that's how bad this whole thing is. I mean, for God's sakes, the man allegedly shit on a woman during a threesome, let the shit run down her head, run down her back, continued to have sex with her, went into the bathroom, cleaned himself up, came back, continued to have sex with her for an hour and a half, and refused to let her go and get cleaned up or take a shower herself. I mean, it's just like, just the level of disgusting deplorableness that this man is capable of. It's just, then you read those text messages and you're like, my God, is this a 12-year-old boy, like, living out his sex fantasies? This is a man. And then you got, it's funny, you get people online that say, well, it can't be Vince. He doesn't even spell you, Y-O-U. He spells it with a U. I'm like, so I know plenty of people who understand what the difference between Y-O-U and you are. They understand that U is not the actual spelling, but sometimes they're just typing fast, and so there's no bearing on anything. Like, people are literally like out there splitting hairs, like, well, he's using you, and it's not real, obviously, because Vince wouldn't use you. How the fuck do you know what Vince would use in a fucking text? Okay? And let me tell you something. Like I said, hours upon hours upon hours upon hours upon hours of research about Vince McMahon. Okay? I think I can pretty confidently say Vince don't give a fuck if in a text message to some girl he's writing Y-O-U or you. Okay, guys? Like, fucking get a fucking grip. Okay? So bottom line, Vince needs to be gone from the company. For optics purposes, doesn't matter what happens going in the future as far as the lawsuit goes. Unless for some miraculous reason they find that every single thing that they've been sharing is all a sham, which it really can't be. They're not going to file a lawsuit with all false information. Like I said, there's a reason the NDA agreement came to, because she had him by the balls, guys. That's why it was signed. Duh. Okay? So, TKO, do the smart thing. Let the man walk. You got to get rid of him. If you want WWE to have any shred of dignity going forward, any type of good name in this industry, in the world really, then you need to do this, okay? And the avalanche has already started. Slim Jim has pulled their sponsorship for tomorrow's Royal Rumble. So you don't think this is fucking real, guys? That, the dominoes are starting to fall and the empire is starting to crumble, and they need to right the ship now before shit gets bad. If you don't see that, I don't know, you're fucking delusional, and you got another thing coming. So, anyways, ran over. TKO. Get rid of Vince. Have a good night tomorrow. Enjoy the Rumble. Bye.